Top 10 manga antagonists of all time. I've already done top 10 manga and top 10 manga protagonists, so jumping right in at number 10, I have Iseoka from Sanctuary. The main antagonists of stories are always the final obstacles to overcome, and Iseoka is exactly that. He, as a person, is everything that Hojo and Asami are trying to take down. With Iseoka's attempts to maintain power, he's holding back Japan as a society. And there's also the glaring fact that he is a corrupt politician, and seeing this type of villain in today's society, it just hits different. There's also the fact that back in the day, when Japan needed him, Iseoka used to be just like Asami and Hojo. But as time went on, the power began to corrupt him, and then of course there's that saying, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And while he doesn't have absolute power, he does have a lot of it. Changing things up at number 9, I have Garo from One Punch Man. What makes his character so interesting is the fact that it's so out of the ordinary and kind of wacky. Put the childish desire to be a hero into somebody that wants to be a villain, and that's Garo. And it's not even the fact that he's a terrible person. He's really not. He has a lot of genuine moments. Garo just feels bad for the villains, and they play it off as comedy, and it is very funny, but the author does a great job of making it both sympathetic and understandable. And then there's his development over time. He's essentially the opposite of One Punch Man, where Saitama wins everything in one punch. Garo struggles for pretty much every single fight that he's in. Moving on to somebody that's a lot smarter than Garo, I have Father at number 8. Now, he is in Noragami, but I don't think a lot of people really know his character because he's essentially manga only. A lot of his character is still shrouded in mystery, and once that mystery gets unveiled, I could see him moving a lot higher up or lower down depending on how satisfying it is. But what we can take away is that he lost a loved one, and he's a human kind of existing in the god's world, and a very old human at that. Despite looking like a young boy, he's actually just continuously switched bodies, and that's how he stays alive for so long. But what's interesting is the creation of Yato. Yato is of course born from him, but the way gods are born in Noragami is a lot different than just being birthed. They are born from wishes, and Yato is solely born from his wish, and his wish is to cull the gods. And that's what led to Yato's incredibly terrible upbringing. Father was always manipulating Yato, whether it was just sending him out to kill people and acting like that was a good thing, or when Yato finally figured out that killing was immoral, he orchestrated a situation where Yato has to kill his own regalia because he revealed the god's secret. All you have to really know about the god's secret is that it turns the regalia into a monster. But like I said earlier, part of his charm right now is the fact that he's so mysterious, and also the fact that he's a character with a good amount of charisma. And I do think Noragami is coming to an end, so I'm excited to see the conclusion to his character. Moving on to something way less villainous, at number 7 I have Oikawa from Haikyuu. He is easily one of the most sympathetic and compelling antagonists out there, and given that this is a sports manga, it's just humans competing against each other, and you're not getting any of that cartoon villainy. And just about every series has a character you feel like could just as easily be the protagonist of his own series, and Oikawa does this for me, and that's definitely a part of what makes him such a great antagonist. In the first tournament, we do see that he does beat Kurasuno, which did suck at the time, but then right after that he does end up failing, coming short to Shiratorizawa. And then after getting into his backstory, where we find out that he's not really that talented, he just works incredibly hard, and that makes him even more compelling. Add that on with his charisma, and you are bound to get a fantastic character. In the second tournament, we see Oikawa go up against Kurasuno again. Now, of course, we want Hinata and Kageyama to win, but at the same time, we don't really want Oikawa to lose. To put the reader in such a conundrum is definitely something you have to give credit to the author for, and Oikawa is the sole reason for this conundrum. Going back to some more villainy, at number 6, I have Makima from Chainsaw Man. By far the newest villain on this list, and it's not really just hype, she definitely deserves a spot. In my opinion, she's better than all the characters I mentioned, at least when it comes to the role of antagonist. From the very beginning, she's just a character that gave off bad vibes. I knew she was eventually going to turn against Chainsaw Man, but I just didn't know how, and it was executed way better than anything I had in my head. Her personality and her abilities just go so perfectly together, and on top of that, she was smart smart and accomplish so much. This happens a lot of time whenever big moments are happening with villains, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really feel like they did that much. This, however, does not apply to Makima, and this might be kind of a weird point to bring up, but there's also the way that she was defeated. I feel like the way Denji managed to beat her, it made both his character and her character better in the process. And to finish things off, she's probably not done yet. Given the ending of Chainsaw Man Part 1, I'm really interested to see how she'll be utilized in Chainsaw Man Shippuden, and this should piss a good amount of people off. At number 5, I have Griffith from Berserk. If you've seen my protagonist list, a lot of what I said about Guts applies here. I have only read the Golden Age arc and the Black Swordsman arc, and while I do think his character was fantastic, most of the time he didn't play the role of antagonist. The twist was amazing and set him up to be an amazing antagonist. Although the only real point of criticism I can point towards his character is when he was Femto, what he did to Casca, while it was shocking, didn't really make that much sense to me, but his build-up friendship with Guts and mental breakdown all make him such a compelling character. Holy shit, I need to find a new word to use. At number 4, I have the most depressed character on here, and that's Reiner from Attack on Titan. Now, what always makes antagonists so interesting is when they get pushed to the breaking point and how they deal with it. With Griffith, he got pushed to the breaking point, but it was mostly his fault. He couldn't handle the fact that Guts left, and it made him make so many mistakes. With Reiner, it's not the same thing. He was a child soldier stuck in an oppressive system. Eventually, he was sent to Paradise Island, where him and Bertolt destroyed the walls. At the time, they were just doing the job that they were raised to do. But throughout their time there, they started to notice that people in Paradise Island, they aren't the devils that they thought they were. And this is what led to Reiner's mental breakdown, in which we get probably one of my favorite reveals of all time. And of course, I'm talking about the Armored and Colossal Titan reveal. And then in season 4, we see Reiner dealing with crazy amounts of PTSD. The way Reiner is now and the way Eren is now just plays off each other so well. And it's a huge reason their talk in season 4 is so great. Now at number 3, I have Roberta from Black Lagoon. And I can definitely see some people disagreeing, saying that she really isn't even an antagonist. And while Roberta's blood trail is probably, I'd say without a doubt, the best arc in this manga, it's a fucking pain in the ass to try and explain. There's just so many moving parts. Just like Griffith and Reiner, this arc is made because Roberta has a mental breakdown. She just can't handle the fact that the man who saved her got accidentally killed by the US government. So she begins to hunt them down, losing herself more and more along the way. And of course, as she's losing herself, our protagonist Rock and his crew are trying to help her out. That's essentially what they've been tasked to do by Fabiola. And of course, Roberta, given the state that she's in, isn't exactly helping them out. And in this state, this bitch is basically the Terminator. She was popping pills like they were mollies and chewing through whole ass machetes. And I don't want to get things twisted. There's a whole lot of thematic depth with her character in this arc. It's not just she's badass and that's it. There's just so much more to it, but I really don't want to spoil it. Plus, I think it'd be more time efficient to just move on. At number 2, I have a character that took me way too long to appreciate, and that's Askeladd from Finnland Saga. And I downplayed him a lot because of the long-term effects he doesn't have on Thorfinn as a character. But while he always played antagonist to Thorfinn, he was always trying to guide him to do something better. Now, I'm not saying he was ever nice about it, but still, he was always trying to do that, even if it was kind of hidden. But him, outside of his relationship with Thorfinn, is where he really shines as a character, specifically what he thinks about Norsemen and his relationships with them. And you see this most prominently in his relationship with Björn. Askeladd admits to hating all the Norsemen, and that out of every single one of them, the only one he considered a friend was Björn. And in regards to Thorfinn, there's absolutely no possible way Askeladd subconsciously did not think of him as a son. The final thing I wanted to say about Askeladd is that his death absolutely made his character so much better. What he did for Canute and how it affects Thorfinn is the perfect send-off for his character, and it's why I definitely couldn't put him any lower than number 2. At number 1, I have Seijudo from Vagabond, and Vagabond won pretty much across the board for protagonist, manga, and antagonist. And this might seem unbelievable, but I did try and throw as much bias as I could out the window window. But given how unbelievably well Seijido was written, it would be impossible for me to put him anywhere except for number 1. Now, in the Kyoto arc, we saw that he was super charismatic and just overall really entertaining. I mean, in the first couple pages, he humbled Musashi and then said he was going to the pleasure quarters right after. The man was pretty captivating right out the gate. It takes all the way until the Yashioka arc to find anything meaningful about his character out, and then finding out that his main ambition is just to protect his younger brother. That takes his character from entertaining to tragic. His final fight with Musashi is arguably the best in the entire series, and his send-off is second only to Askeladd's.